All right, it's 1 p.m. Pacific, so I'm going to go ahead and get our meeting started. I think people are still trickling in, but they'll go ahead and let them join as they join. So thanks for joining us, everyone, today. Today is the fourth and final in our spring SEAL virtual training series, all about citizen science and Eclipse programming. Today we're joined by Mary Kay Severino, who is from a fantastic project called Eclipse Soundscapes. We're going to be talking a little bit about that specific project and how to get involved with there at your library. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'll give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. My name is Dylan Connolly. My pronouns are he and they. I'm an education specialist at the Space Science Institute and the National Center for Interactive Learning. I have been running all these SEAL training webinars, and I'm excited to share this one with you, like I have all the others. And I'll go ahead and let Mary Kay introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Kay Severino, and my pronouns are she and her. I am the education director at Orissa Lab, and the main project that we're working on right now is the Eclipse Soundscapes project.
We did have one more presenter, Dr. Trey Winter, but he unfortunately wasn't able to join us today, so Mary Kay is going to be presenting solo. We're also joined by Sky Reed Mills. They are going to be providing some chat support, throwing the link bank for this webinar in the chat. Sky, if you wouldn't mind doing that, that's our Getting Started with SEAL resource blog post. That has all the links for everything we're going to be covering today, as well as the links we've been covering in all of our SEAL virtual training series webinars. And I'll be going into the details of what that is all about in just a minute. So today's agenda, we've already kind of started along this. We're going to do a quick introduction, go over the agenda and talk and have an icebreaker. Then I'm going to be giving a quick introduction to the SEAL project. If you're joining us, maybe hearing about this from one of our, from some other venue and you haven't been familiar with the SEAL project, I'll give you some little bit of information there. I'll talk briefly about the SciStarter Eclipse Hub, which is a great web page that SciStarter has put together. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mary Kay to talk about Eclipse Soundscapes, going over the project, ways to participate in Eclipse Soundscapes, and requirements for each participation role. And then we're going to open it up for y'all, because this is a meeting setup and not a webinar, to have a little Q&A and answer any questions y'all may have. So just to get things started, I thought we'd start it with an icebreaker. Part of this series of webinars is all about connecting people with citizen science. And citizen science is a really fantastic way for people all over the country and the world to actively participate in science. And I think that ties really well together with the upcoming eclipses that are going to be happening this year and next year, because those are going to be visible all over the United States. So there's some really good thematic tie together between citizen science and the eclipses. So since citizen science is such a great way to connect your community with big ideas about the world around us, I thought I would ask y'all, what are some ways in the past related to citizen science, eclipses, or just anything? What are some ways that you've connected your communities to big ideas at your library? You can either unmute or throw this in the chat while y'all are thinking about that. I'll talk about one way that I have been lucky enough to connect some of this in the past. In the last Eclipse in 2017, I was working at a small natural history museum in Providence, Rhode Island, and we were actually able to get some glasses from SSI and get some library glasses, some eclipse glasses to view the eclipse at our big event, which ended up being much, much bigger than we thought it would be. And that was such a cool way, one of the best events I've ever been at, because we just got people from all over the community, people actually coming from all over the state of Rhode Island to our small little natural history museum, who knew lots about the eclipse. People showed up with cameras and solar filters. Other people were just like, I didn't even know there was an eclipse happening, and I happened to hear about this on the radio today. And it was a really cool way for people, for not only us to share information, but also for people to share information with each other and meet other enthusiasts. And we ended up getting a lot of volunteers out of that event, which was really, really cool. So what are some ways that y'all have connected your community to big ideas at your library? Maylin just put in the chat that hydroponic gardening has connected kids to their food by growing cherry tomatoes. That's really fantastic. Thinking about where your food is growing is a really great scientific concept and a really personal thing. Food, everybody eats food. Debbie said that science kits are available for checkout, and they do a program, a telescope program for night sky. That's really fantastic. I love night sky programming. Christine said we are working with our local water professionals to coordinate a citizen science program around collecting water quality data, microscope, and water exploration programs. That sounds awesome. We've actually done a citizen science webinar. You can find it on the starnetlibraries.org webpage, all about water citizen science. If you're interested in exploring more about that, you can check that out on our webpage. But that's awesome, Christine. Anybody else got any ideas about like ways they've connected their community to big ideas? If you're feeling brave, you can go ahead and unmute while I take my sip of water. Teresa said, I'm new to the position, so I'm inspired by all the ideas presented. Excellent. That's a great, we're glad that we're able to provide this for you, Teresa, and provide that inspiration. Veronica said, for the last eclipse in 2017, we distributed 500 eclipse glasses and offered an Eclipse Day celebration with games, crafts, and space-themed snacks. We hope to do this again in October and April. Fantastic. That's really great. Well, it sounds like we've got a really broad mix of people who maybe have experience with citizen science at their organization, some who are new to it. So we're hoping that maybe today we can inspire you to get some ideas if you are and get started in this. And what's really great about the project that Mary Kay is going to be talking about today is this is really accessible for anybody who's never done citizen science before, and it's got built-in training to all the way to citizen science experts. So if you are new to citizen science, don't worry about it. We have plenty of opportunities for you to get trained, and we'll be talking about how in this webinar. Oh, one more one came in. Margaret said we offered viewing through our telescope with a sun filter, ran STEAM programs for kindergarten through 5th grade prior to the event. Hope to have new activities for this year. Excellent. I really love that idea of not just thinking about the eclipse day itself as a day you can do programming, but programming leading up to, during, and after the eclipse as well. All right, fantastic. So let's get started talking a little bit about the SEAL project. So this webinar is part of the SEAL project, or the Solar Eclipse Activities for Libraries project that we're doing here at SSI with funding from the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation. We're partnering with all sorts of different orgs to get a ton of resources free for libraries available to you. And some of these include, but are definitely not limited to, we're offering free Eclipse classes for libraries. Every library in the country can sign up for up to 2,000 free Eclipse classes per application. The application for these Eclipse classes is available in the link bank that Sky has been sharing in the chat, which Sky just put in there again. Once you're signed up for those classes, and we're calling it an application, but there's no approval process other than you having a complete application and a letter from your administration saying they're aware you're participating. That's the only thing you need approval on. There's no sort of limited application process. So right now, every application that's 100% complete will receive glasses from us. And in addition to that, you'll also be signed up for our newsletter and connected through our Eclipse community group on our community website. I'm affectionately calling it Spacebook. It's a social media style site where librarians, scientists, us here at SSI, and you librarians can share ideas about Eclipse programming, share programming ideas, connect with scientists, ask questions. Really, really a fantastic resource. Oh, Margaret said in the chat they've already got their glasses. Fantastic. Sky has been working overtime getting those glasses out to you, so I'm glad they're starting to get to you. In addition to those glasses, the newsletter, and the Eclipse site, we are also doing in-person trainings in all 50 states and 4 territories. I think we're about a quarter of the way through. I think we've done a dozen or so states. We've got tons coming up. If you're interested in attending one of those, we're organizing them through state library associations. So contact your state library association if that's something you're interested in, and you can get that information about those upcoming trainings. We're also doing recorded training videos and virtual workshops, just like the one you're in now. And we are providing circulating kits to state libraries that have a solar eclipse or solar telescopes, binoculars, books, and activities. You can find more about those in our Getting Started with Steel webinar. We're having more of those coming up. We also have a recording of that I'll be talking about a little later. And we're also providing access to scientists, volunteers, Eclipse subject matter experts, and other librarians to that StarNet online community I was talking about. So Sky has been sharing that link to our Getting Started with Steel blog post. If you are checking out this recording or maybe watching, looking at the PDF of our slide deck that we'll be posting to our website later, the links in there provide all this information about everything we're doing with Steel. So we've got sections on that blog post about the Steel project, how to register, that link to register for glasses, get signed up with our newsletter. We also have a link to our graphics and logos blog post. I know one of the big things, all of the graphics you've been seeing as I've been sharing in this presentation so far, we're making available to y'all to use as well, to put together marketing materials, make art for your programs, all sorts of cool stuff. So you can brand everything matching with the resources we're providing. We have a section in there on professional development and trainings. We're posting links to all the webinars that we've been hosting, as well as upcoming opportunities in that section. General Eclipse information that's meant for both you, the librarians, as informal STEM educators, as well as stuff that's more patron facing. So that's a great section there. A section on how to make Eclipse connections, things like solar system ambassadors, Night Sky Network. We're in the process of getting together some Eclipse focused experts that we're going to be providing access to, and you'll be finding out through that once you get signed up for our newsletter. We also have Eclipse specific programming and activity resources, things from the STEM Activity Clearinghouse, which is StarNet's huge repository of over 500 STEM vetted STEM activities that are great for libraries. We actually have a collection that's all about Eclipse science that you can check out. And we have a section that we've added thanks to these spring trainings, all about different citizen science resources, where we've posting recordings of our previous citizen science webinars, as well as information about all the projects coming up, and a couple that are actually offering free kits like Eclipse Soundscapes, as well as the Globe Observer program, who's also putting together a special Eclipse section of the Globe Observer app. If you're interested in that, you can check out our previous webinars. So previously on our spring, our Steel virtual training series, we have a few different options. All of these links are in that Getting Started with Steel blog post. They'll also be available on the slide deck, which we're going to be making available with the recording of this webinar. We have that Getting Started with Steel webinar. We hosted several several virtual ones at the beginning of the year. We're going to be starting that again this month. And the registration link for those is in the Getting Started with Steel blog post, or if you can check out the recording. That kind of replicates a lot of the information we've been providing for in-person training. So if you are if you're just now finding out about Steel and wasn't able to attend one of the in-person trainings in your state that already happened, the Getting Started with Steel webinar is a great resource for getting some of that information, as well as the Steel FAQ webinar that we hosted last year that has a ton of information, not just about the Steel project, but about Eclipse science in general, and a nice primer on the Eclipse science. We've also hosted, this is the fourth of 4 citizen science and Eclipse Steel trainings that we've been doing. We have an introduction to citizen science and the Eclipse. Second one on programming specifically with citizen science, where we walk you through a daytime star day program and how to set that up, what kind of resources are available, step by step on things you can do to host a whole citizen science Eclipse themed event. And our last webinar that we had just a couple weeks ago was with the fantastic people from Globe Observer, which is a great app available through NASA, where people can do all sorts of citizen science observations and recordings, and those including a special section on that app to do eclipse observations that'll be released during the eclipse. So all of that information on how to get involved there, including how to apply for one of the Globe Observer kits, is all available in that webinar. I highly recommend you check that out. The deadline for applying for those kits is coming up on the May 31st, 2023. So you got a couple weeks to check that out and apply for one of those citizen science kits. we've been partnering with SciStarter to put on these webinars. SciStarter is a really fantastic organization. They kind of do for citizen science what SSI and NCIL do at StarNet do for hands-on STEM activities. They've put together a huge hub of tons of citizen science projects, and specifically for the eclipse, for the upcoming annular solar eclipse in October of this year and the total solar eclipse in April of next year, they put together this really fantastic hub that's got a whole bunch of solar science and eclipse science related citizen science projects you can get involved with, resources, links to resources from NASA, and links to learn more about the eclipse. Highly recommend checking that out. SciStarter actually has a whole suite of trainings on how to get started with citizen science if you're new to this, and really a great resource. So now I'm going to turn this over to Mary Kay to talk a little bit specifically and drill down about one of the citizen science projects that I think is really fantastic, that's directly Eclipse related, called Eclipse Soundscapes. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Mary Kay. Take it away.
Thank you. Before I start, I just want to mention that I think SEAL's mascot is adorable with its little eclipse glasses. It's awesome. Thank you for having me. As I said earlier, my name is Mary Kay Severino, and I'm the Education Director at Arissa Lab. I am one of the leads on the Eclipse Soundscape Citizen Science Project. The other lead, Dr. Henry Trey Winter, couldn't join us today, but we are both very excited about this project and really hope that all of you will want to get involved. So we do have some slides accompanying this presentation that I'll describe as we go through it. I'll talk just a little bit about the science behind the project, and then talk a bit more about the actual participation roles and how you might bring it to your library and answer some questions. Before I start to get into some of that, I do want to point out that our project does have a focus on inclusion and accessibility from the start. So on this slide, you will see an icon in the bottom right corner that is the circle with the person in the center, which is demonstrating this. And we put a special focus on considering any members of the blind and low vision community. Even though this project is for everyone, that is a community that is often left out of events that are perceived as visual events. And so we wanted to make sure that we put special thought into making sure that it isn't only perceived that way. So a lot of our project is based on sound, as well as just a multi-sensory approach in general. Sight, sound, feel, temperature changes, animal changes. So really trying to take a multi-sensory approach to any sort of observation and science in general. So that's just something that we like to point out at the beginning. So we can go to the next slide. So just a little brief information about the science behind what the Eclipse Soundscape Citizen Science Project is studying. We are specifically working on how eclipses affect life on Earth, specifically through soundscapes. And we're looking for citizen scientists to help gather observations and sound data and just learn about eclipses in general. And this is actually based on a study that was done way back in 1930s. There was an eclipse in the Northeast in 1932. There was a scientist named Wheeler who actually reached out to the general public through newspapers, asking people to observe eclipses and then send their observations back. And so in our mind, this is kind of like a very early citizen science project. And we read this paper and we realized how so many of the observations that people sent back were not only visual. It included things that they saw, but it also included sounds that they heard, crickets suddenly coming out, even though it was the middle of the day, different ways that animals were reacting, different feelings of temperature. And so we thought that was really amazing. And in our minds, it seems like one of the earliest citizen science projects. Since then, there have been a lot of other studies on how life on Earth has been affected by eclipses and nature in general. Some done by National Park Services in 2017. We also use a lot of their work to help us better understand how to go about doing this kind of research. And why do we need citizen scientists for this? Well, this will give us a lot of powerful data and information, the same way Wheeler back in the 1930s got so much information back. He had almost 500 responses. We're hoping to be able to gather that much more observation information and data because that many more people will be involved. And we hope that this will advance the field of soundscape ecology too, which is really just about analyzing the data. So we'll be able to collect a lot. So we can, oh, one more thing I'll mention. There is a QR code on the screen and it goes to a page that has a video going a little bit more into the details of what the Eclipse Soundscape Citizen Science Project is studying, what it's all about. It's a fun little video, only 3 or 4 minutes, but I'm not going to show it today. I just wanted to put it in here so that maybe you'll go back and check it out after the presentation. So we can go to the next slide.
Yeah, and I just want to slide in here for just a second. What's really great about this project, y'all, is that even though a lot of the citizen science stuff and a lot of eclipse-focused stuff is really focused on people in the direct path of both the annular eclipse and the total eclipse, what's really great about this particular project is that it's fantastic. We want comparative data for people all over the country. So whether or not you're getting 10% coverage or 100% coverage, that's a really important contribution to this data set. So even if you are in a part of the country that isn't directly in the path, like the annular and total solar eclipse, this is a really great project. Even if you're far up north in the UP of Wisconsin, this is still a really great place for you to contribute and do some eclipse programming, even if you're not on the direct path.
That's perfect lead into this part. Actually, it kind of gets a little bit more into like, what are the different ways that people can participate? So there's a lot of different ways. And as Dylan was saying, you don't have to be directly on the path. And not all of the elements of this require the kit. There's an apprentice level, which is all about Eclipse learning. And that has an online training that people can do on their own. It can be done any location, anytime. I think it's really fun to do it before the eclipses because then you know what's going on, but it could be done after. And there's tons of free videos that will be available. And we're really approaching this with, as I said, inclusion in mind. So that means considering universal design for learning, meaning that we have the information displayed in video, in text, screen reader friendly. There's closed captions on our videos. So we're really trying to make sure that people can use the materials and the senses that they have available to them, and it can be done in multiple different ways. So that's one level. And at the end of that learning, it's possible to take a quiz and get a certificate, which is really fun if you use some of those videos with some of your patrons and then they want to take the quiz and get a certificate, they can do that. There's 2 other roles that happen during eclipse time. The observer role, again, any location. You could be at 10%, you could be right on the path. We will be requesting all observations. Did you feel anything different? How'd the temperature feel? Did you hear anything? You know, if you're wearing eclipse glasses, what did you see? All of those, and those can get submitted online. So that opens up the possibility of doing some kind of eclipse day programming with some of your patrons. And we do have some videos about how to observe in a multi-sensory way, and that'll be in the observer training. Most of these trainings are coming out within the next month or 2. Then data collection, this one on or near the path. So these ones do require a kit. So there is an application for that. For this particular role, we are requesting about 80% or greater in terms of closeness to the path, at 100% on the path and up to 80%, which is actually a huge amount of the country with that spread. And it is possible to request these kits. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail. And then the final role, which will actually be after the eclipses, is analyzing all of this data, getting online and being involved in working with the data. So making sure that citizen scientists involved in this project get to be involved in the whole scientific process. And we're trying to consider that programming from that point of view. The apprentice level being getting a deeper understanding of your content, which is important in any kind of scientific process, being someone who gets out in the field and does field researcher type stuff, like an observer or a data collector, and then working with the data after it comes in. And again, data analyst, that can be any location. That will happen in 2024 and 2025. And there is a QR code on the screen, which brings you to the project's webpage. There's tons of QR codes here. If you go to eclipsesoundscapes.org, you will find your way to everything you need, or you can use these. We can hop to the next slide. So, how would you actually be involved? So we kind of imagine that people at libraries would take on the role of being a mentor. And what that means is, as a mentor, you would just decide how to guide your patrons through some of these roles. Maybe that means a one-time Eclipse learning event where you're focusing on the apprentice role. Maybe it means something like a citizen science club where you meet several times. That's kind of whatever seems like the best way to do these roles with a group of your patrons. We do have an application process for this, because anyone who applies and wants to be a mentor and lead a group of citizen scientists can get a free kit. And what would be amazing is if you applied to be a mentor and then you had the kit, you showed people at your library all about the kit. People can touch it. It's a tactile type kit, do some Eclipse learning programming, and then maybe even go out with a group of your patrons and put the little recording device outside your library somewhere. We are expecting that people will be able to just attach them to a tree or a bench or somewhere outside. Doesn't have to be in the country, can be in the middle of the city, can really be anywhere. The sounds may or may not change no matter where you are, and that will be interesting data to collect. All of the devices that are in the kit, they are very small. They're about half the size of a cell phone. That's a little recording device that's in the kit. And they do have tactile elements on them to make them accessible. One element that we are asking anyone who signs up to be a mentor is, would you like it to come already with the particular bump dots and other tactile elements already on there? Or would you like them to come separately so that you yourself, as a part of your training, can make them accessible and be a little bit more involved in the production itself, and get more awareness about tactile cues as it relates to accessibility and the technology devices like our recording device. So the screen goes through the process. Applications for the annular Eclipse, they are due by July 10th. So they're open now on the website. They just opened yesterday, and they will be open until July 10th, 2023. We will not be putting out the application for the total solar eclipse until about fall 2023, probably right after the annular. We do have ours separated. The annular is more of our beta, so we want to make sure that we fix anything and then go through the whole process again. Maybe it'll be exactly the same or better than ever based on feedback. The mentor process does have a training component. We expect that it would probably only take about 3 to 6 hours, maybe 8 at most. It will be asynchronous online and available in July. One part of it will be on accessibility. This project will be kind of like a case study, and we'll go through in the training how we went about using everyday materials like bump dots, which I keep referring to. Many of you actually know what bump dots are. They are little rubber pieces that keep your cabinet, when you open it, from gouging the wall. So those you can find at most hardware stores, and those are actually great tactile cues to be able to show in a tactile way where important buttons are on devices to make them more accessible. So there's a lot of different things that we considered in making this project as inclusive as possible. So the training will go through some of that, and you might be able to then apply some of that to your own programming or other things that you do. And then the training will also go over each of the roles. even if at your library you decide, we just want to help patrons know more about the eclipse. So we're going to use all of the apprentice learning materials, and everyone will get a certificate once they know about eclipses, which is awesome. We still want to make sure that you know about all of the roles, because then you'll know about the whole project. And if anyone asks you, oh, okay, well, we learned about the eclipses, but what if I want to go home and keep going with this project? What is this project all about? You will have gotten to go through the training and know about each of those roles. Something else is that the mentor training will have a certificate of completion for you, saying you completed this training, to put it on your wall, do whatever you like with it. And maybe it's professional development points, maybe not, depending on your establishment. But there is a certificate. I do also have on the slide what is actually in a kit. So if, okay, great, you get this kit, what does that even really mean? Well, it has that small device that I mentioned that's, about half the size of a cell phone. It has a micro SD card to be able to record the data. It has a waterproof plastic bag. It has some zip ties. All of this so that you can actually put your device outside, and the recording will have to record for about 5 days. So you would actually put it out 2 days before the eclipse and then bring it back in 2 days after. So if you want to do a whole week of eclipse programming, you could do this 2 days before with any patrons that come and want to touch the kit and see what the device is all about. And it won't interfere with something you might be doing on Eclipse Day if you're having a party or something like that. So this kind of allows you that flexibility. Or if you're also going to be doing the observation element, that happens on Eclipse Day. So it allows you to do both, one or the other. Because it stays outside for 5 days, people often ask us, why aren't we using our phones to record the sound? I wouldn't leave my phone outside for 5 days unattended. So we are including these little devices, and then you just agree, you commit to giving us back this data, because of course we are providing this device in hopes that we get the data back, and you get to keep the actual audio moth, but we just need that micro SD card back for the data. Or we're working right now to see if there can be an upload option, but all of the kits will come with a return envelope in case the upload doesn't work or it takes too long on your computers. So there will be definitely the mail-in option and possibly also the upload option. And the envelope will come pre-stamped, so there's no cost. You don't have to pay the postage. So I think that outlines all of the actual mentor process and what all of that is about. We can hop to the next slide and I can answer questions about the process afterwards.
And I gotta say, Mary Kay, one of the things I like most about the project and the way you set this up is you can just do a little bit of this and just get your feet wet with some citizen science and eclipse observations, or you can go full bore. We are collecting this data, we're mailing this data back, we're making sure that we're doing this every step of the way. And as Mary Kay was saying, because this is designed to be set up a couple days before the eclipse and taken down a couple days after, to get kind of how the sound in your area is changing due to the eclipse. It's a really great opportunity if you've got to work this into other programming. If you've got a teen STEM club or partnered with a high school or middle school, this is a really great thing to get a group of kids, teens or tweens involved with, to get this set up and then do the observation portion during the eclipse day itself. Or if you're just going to be crazy busy hosting all sorts of eclipse events, we know that there's going to be so much excitement about this, and you just want to focus on being a space where people can observe the eclipse. This is still something you can do to be involved and have some programming before and after that doesn't add some extra burden to your eclipse day. So if that's a concern of yours and you've been worried about, oh, I don't know how to do all this eclipse stuff on eclipse day, this is a great opportunity to get involved and do some stuff before and after with citizen science that isn't going to be as taxing on the day of.
Exactly. And we would really hope that this is so great for tweens or teens, but we cannot send free kits to teens or tweens because we do not want to have their address. We feel like obviously they're whoever is the adult in their life can sign up. So if you could be an adult in some teens and tweens lives and get these kits and get these groups involved in this, it would be really awesome. That's what we're really hoping. And there's lots of different flexibility with what you can do with all of the trainings we're putting out. We are putting them all out completely free. You don't have to go through any barriers to get to any of these trainings. You can reuse all the videos. We are making tons of education type videos that are all less than 5 minutes long about what is the difference between, you know, maximum eclipse for a total solar eclipse and an annular eclipse, or what is an eclipse path? Everyone's talking about eclipse path. What does that even mean? Or all of those kinds of cool videos are all in the apprentice training, and you can use any or all of them however you see fit. And so one of our ideas is you could get together with a group and just do it in a big kind of way where someone gets up at your library and presents them and shows some of the videos and talks about maybe what you've learned when you went through them, or maybe you do it together with a group that you meet and then you all take the apprentice training quiz together and everyone gets a certificate. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about it. That's the same for observing. The videos that are in the observer training are really focused on how to observe in a multi-sensory way. Really quick little videos, again, all meant to be less than 5 minutes, so that people are interested and excited to keep going through it. And you could get out there on Eclipse Day, you can submit your observations online and again, get a certificate for having done that. And then same thing with data collectors, you can guide groups, go out there together, or maybe get one group together and everyone touches the audio moth, and even you can even get together and talk about it afterwards. What are you going to do with this audio moth next? There's a lot of stuff, a lot of programming out there where you can keep using an audio moth device. I know that audio moths are used for studies related to bats, studies related to birds. So there's a lot of fun things that can be done with an audio moth after the fact too. And again, if you are a mentor and you're doing this programming with your library to collect data, you get to keep the audio moth. We only need the SD card back. So just a couple of programming ideas, but again, we are open to however you see fit to use this information. And we also hope to be a link between you and your community. So if you're running a learning event and you think, hey, I wonder if somebody from Eclipse Soundscapes could come and do a Q&A at the end, just like zoom in virtually, please contact us. Any of these mentors that are involved, we want to be in communication with you. We want to be the link between you and all of your communities, or we want you to be the link between us and all of your communities. So we don't have anything necessarily set in place for that, except to say that we are open to hearing your ideas. So any mentors that get involved. So we can hop to the next slide. So we will actually be at the American Library Association annual conference. Maybe some of you will be there too. We will be there in Chicago, Illinois from June 22nd to the 27th. We will be at booth number 2245. You can come and find us, ask questions. We intentionally set the deadline long enough so that maybe people would want to be able to come and speak to us in person before the application period is over, at least for the annular eclipse. Again, the total solar eclipse hasn't opened yet, but still come ask us questions. And we can hop to the next slide. So this is kind of the end of it. I just wanted to put up a couple of important dates and pieces of information. So again, the annular eclipse, which is October 14th, 2023, the applications to be a mentor are open now, and they are due by July 10th, 2023. And then we will be putting out application time for the total solar eclipse probably just after the annual, but we always put out information out to anyone who's signed up for updates. So I definitely recommend signing up for updates if you think you might be interested in the total solar eclipse programming. One thing I didn't mention, which I don't know if anyone's going to ask this question, but I would ask me this question. How many kits do we have, and how do we choose who gets them? We are hoping to do about 400 to 450 across both eclipses of the free kits, and probably 250 to 300 of them will be for the total and lesser for the annular eclipse. In terms of application, we will probably do first come, first serve / variety of locations. So if everybody from one town applies and maybe 2 weeks later, someone from the completely other side of the country applies, even though they were not first, it might play into it in terms of being able to gather data from as many places as possible. But something else about the kits, and we will be putting out information. Obviously, free is great. We all like free, and we are giving away free kits with anyone who applies to be a mentor and wants to run these programs at their library. But if for some reason it wasn't possible to get one of these free kits, we intentionally made an effort to choose the recorder that was the least expensive, relatively speaking. So there are recorders out there that are really awesome, that are $2,000, $3,000, and that's amazing. But we didn't want to go that route because we wanted to try and give as many ways possible, and also make it moderately possible for groups to possibly put together their own kit. So the AudioMoth itself is around, give or take, because we know electronics keep changing in prices, around $150 for the AudioMoth itself. You could use a sandwich baggie to be your waterproof bag. You are just using zip ties to attach it. The SD cards have to be 64 megabytes, which is not completely out of the realm of possibilities, usually around $10, $15 for one of those. So the kit itself is under $200 per kit. It's not a small amount of money, but it is not the astronomical thousands of dollars. So that was also very intentionally planned. So I will
And Mary Kay, will you have information about how to get one of these AudioMoths yourself on the Eclipse Soundscapes website?
Yes, we will.
Fantastic. And so this is, if you have any other grant funding, if you have maybe involved in one of our other projects and received some stipends for STEM programming, I think this kit is even if you don't get selected, purchasing an AudioMoth and doing this around the eclipse, a great way to spend some grant funding for not too expensive and have a really, really cool long-term project you can get involved with for the eclipse. So both of these QR codes link directly to the Getting Involved website to sign up for that information, right, Mary Kay?
Yes, so the top QR code is right to the application. If you realize, okay, I want to be involved with the annular eclipse, I'm in. I want to apply, please do. That is the top QR code. The second QR code is the updates QR code. So maybe you just want to know what's going on with the project. Maybe you know that you want to be involved for the total solar eclipse, or you have no idea if you want to be involved. Maybe just sign up for updates, and as things come out, maybe something jumps out at you.
Awesome, fantastic. So I really encourage everyone to at least sign up for getting updates and staying involved in this project. I think it's a great opportunity for libraries to do some really, really cool programming. Yeah, so thank you so much, Mary Kay, for sharing all this information. I'm hoping you all get involved with it. A lot of kits available, so I think that get that application in, especially if you're near the path of annularity for the October eclipse. The more people that sign up, the more Mary Kay can make this really fantastic for the spring eclipse next year, and you'd be really helping both this project out and science in general, collecting this data. So now one thing before we start the Q&A, Margaret did put a really fantastic link in the chat. It is the link to this is also on our Getting Started with Steel blog post, which Sky will share again in the chat, but it's a really great way to find how, if you are unfamiliar with the eclipses and you're just getting started with this and want to know how much of the eclipse is going to be visible in your location, you can follow that link on eclipse2024.org. And you can actually enter in your location and you will get a virtual readout of exactly how much coverage for both eclipses will be in, or how much coverage you'll have for the eclipse, when the coverage will start, when it'll end, and what to expect that whole thing. It'll be a nice virtual simulation there. So now I'll go ahead and we got about 15 minutes left. And now I'm turning it over to y'all. If you have any questions about this project or Seal in general, you can go ahead and unmute or enter it into the chat. What can we answer for y'all before we wrap up today?
And I know you have questions, but I want to throw out what I just stuck in the chat. We also have a resources section, which I didn't even think of adding to the link bank until you just said that about finding your location. There's some different links about figuring out if you were on the path in the resources. There's also really important information about eclipse viewing safety. And so I highly recommend going there because the AAS, American Astronomical Society, is the best safety resource in our opinion, and that's who NASA is partnering with primarily for eclipse safety. And there is a link there. So if you want to make sure that you really know what's going on from a safety perspective, there is a link on that resources page, and that is an amazing resource to make sure that you consider. I know that's something that we always want to make sure that we think about.
Absolutely. And we also have, in addition to that link through Eclipse Soundscapes, if you sign up for our free Eclipse glasses, we are also including a booklet that includes the basics of eclipse science and a whole safety guide that we're adapting from the AAS guide as well. So we've replicated some of that information that you will get in a nice printed form if you sign up for our Eclipse glasses program. And we'll also be making that same booklet with that safety information available on our website. All right, so and I'll actually, Mary Kay, I'll add this link as well to the Getting Started with Seal blog post under the Citizen Science section.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, does anybody have any questions for us about, for Mary Kay, about Eclipse Soundscapes, for myself, for Sky, about the Seal program? Go ahead and ask away. This is always the part where I have to fight my urge to fill silences, which I'm actually doing right now anyway. I just start playing the Jeopardy theme in my head because I know people are typing and I have to just be patient. While I'm continuing to let the space be silent, I'm going to go ahead and throw my email in the chat. That's dconnelly@spacescience.org. If any questions occur to you after this webinar, you can go ahead and reach out to me there, and I can answer any questions you might have. Debbie, I'm sorry, we do not send out emails after the webinars, but we will be posting the recording of this webinar, which will have, and that recording on YouTube. In the video description, we'll have the PDF of the slide deck, a transcript of all the chats, and links to everything we've talked about here today. So if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, where we have tons of how-to videos, we post all of our recorded webinars, and have some really just cool stuff about space science and library STEM education in general, highly recommend doing that. And also, if you sign up for our newsletter, a lot of this information will be shared over again in our newsletter. So that's the best way to get any of this information is Getting Started with Seal blog post that Sky has been putting in the chat. I'll ask Sky to throw that in there one more time. That's the best way to get a hold of us. If you are interested in our YouTube channel, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share now. It is at StarNet Libraries is our YouTube channel. And I'll go ahead and actually get a link for you right now. So then that is the StarNet Libraries YouTube channel where we actually have all sorts of playlists with how-to videos. We also have a playlist of all of the Seal virtual training videos, the ones I was mentioning earlier, as well as the how-to videos for our state library circulation kits. Tons of great information on that StarNet Libraries channel. Oh, I think they both work. I think one takes you to the channel and one is like our page, but they both take you to the same place. Either one of those should work.
First one took me to, I don't know, some YouTube ads, so I was dubious, but I believe it.
Oh, unless I'm wrong. I might have actually, never mind. Use Sky's link, not mine. Ignore me. I don't know what I'm talking about, at least in this one circumstance. Yeah, sorry. It's at StarNet Libraries is what you want to look for. Can I delete this message so it's not showing up in the chat? I can. Such power. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions or anything? If not, I will give you back the 10 minutes of your day. But I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you, Mary Kay, for coming and sharing all this information. I really think that this is a great opportunity for librarians to get involved in kind of a low impact way, have some professional development around STEM education, and do some really, really cool stuff that contributes to a large understanding of how eclipses affect the world around us. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for Sky for providing chat support. Thanks for Mary Kay for joining us. As I said, I'm going to put my email in the chat one more time. If you joined us late or had to look away from the computer or anything, go ahead and shoot me an email about any questions, about anything you may have missed. I'd be more than happy to connect you with the information you need to get involved with both the Solar Eclipse Activities for Libraries project as well as Eclipse Soundscapes. So thanks so much, everyone. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday and a great week. And I'll see you around the various StarNet network channels. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.